Are there
God.
other teams you want to see do a comedy leotard?
And
what would it be?
Oh, a comedy leotard. I would like to see Southern Utah has such a great opportunity with calling themselves the Flippin' Birds. But the whole thing is you could have had a bird upside down with a questionable finger, leaf, what is it called? Feathers. They could, because all the animals are kind of blah. You want, right? They're just, except the Clemson leotard. I can never get enough of that.
But animals have been done. That's why like new women's sports leagues always go for concepts.
Yes. Because
emotions.
Unless you're going to be like mermaids or unicorns, like be like all the UK countries and don't pick a real thing. Like Isle of Man, feet. Feet are real, but not. Remember, the show is PG-13, so you might hear a naughty word or two. Norbert's is having a sale on chalk. Taiwanese chalk, obviously the best kind. Stock up on your chalk blocks. Get a whole box. Go to norberts.net for a 10% discount on anything with the code GymCastic January. Norberts is also having a giveaway. It's a $50 Norberts gift card that can be used in anything in their online store. No minimum. Just follow Norberts Athletic on Instagram and then like and comment on the giveaway post. Good luck. New details from a Simone Biles interview. We have news on Russia and the Olympics. So much to discuss with college gymnastics, including a new threat to Oklahoma. And, of course, a mother-daughter legacy routine that's been done again, which makes me so happy. We have tons to tell you about. It's January 15th for 2024. It is MLK Day. And welcome to the #1 gymnastics podcast in the galaxy. I'm Jessica from GymCastic, and I'm here with Spencer from the Balance Beam Situation. It's me from GymCastic.
That's
and
you.
Spencer from
it's
the Balance
you.
Beam Situation.
Wow.
College and cocktails.
This
week, it's Friday.
Yes. Episode 3 of the 2024 season of College and Cocktails. This Friday, 7:30 Pacific. It's January 19th, after the SEC triple header. So it's Florida, Auburn, and then Arkansas, Alabama, and then Kentucky, LSU, and then us will have watched them, and we're going to then, talk about it.
I'm very excited.
The scores are going to be normal. They're going to be normal and great, and everything's going to be even and fair, and then we'll talk about how even and fair it was.
Right. There's definitely going to be no changes in who's ranked where. It's so fun. College and cocktails. We pick a meet. We watch together. We talk about it as a family. It's the best. Friday night, 7:30 Pacific. We'll see you there. January 19th.
Let's talk some news headlines before we get to recapping what happened in week 2 of NCAA. So there was a Simone Vanity Fair interview, which I have not perused, but you did. So I would like you to tell me about what happened. So then I'll know without doing any work.
You're welcome.
Thank you.
There has been, you haven't really heard anything about it because like for gymnastics fans, there really isn't anything. For listeners of the show, nothing new. The only thing in there I would say is that the new info for us is that, well, kind of, she only works out 4 days a week now. So she does 2-a-days, 4 days a week. And on the 2-a-day days, it does include an hour-and-a-half nap.
Correct.
This is the most important thing. And the most important news, we know how she loves her naps. And then weekends off, which is so great. Okay, the other news that we got is the FIG published their independent neutral athletes, which is basically the system they set up for saying, okay, we're going to meet the criteria that you can't have supported the war, but we're going to create this criteria for Russians and Belarusian athletes to compete through a system that makes it impossible for any Russian athlete to compete. So they finally published a list. They said very specifically, this is not the definitive list. We will update it as things progress, if anyone else applies. The most prominent artistic gymnast in this is Yahor Sharamako, 2-time European medalist. There are no Russians on the list. Only Belarusians on this list. Absolutely no Russians on the list. But there is a trampoline. The trampoline gold medalist from Tokyo is from Belarus, and he is on the list. So no Russia for now. But this is the interesting thing. There are some World Cups, even for the Belarusians. There are some World Cups that are in Europe, and the European Gymnastics Federation Union has said that it will not allow any Belarusian or Russian athletes to compete at all in defiance of the FIG and IOC mandates. So remains to be seen, because the World Cup system for artistic gymnasts is the way to go. And based on the fact that the FIG has said we are going to update this as people apply and can pass the screening process, I just think there's even though you have to submit your name for a World Cup by a certain date, and I just feel like the FIG can add people whenever they want. Do I think there's going to be any Russian athletes? No, but this still doesn't mean. I mean, I feel like until the second World Cup has started, I won't feel secure that no Russian athletes are going. Basically.
I feel like we would have, if they were going to apply. Like, I also don't even know if any Russian athletes applied.
Yeah, and FIG won't.
We don't. Yeah, we'll never get that information. But they may have just said, we're not doing this, and we're not trying for it. We don't know that like people applied and were rejected, for instance.
Yeah. Another follow-up from last week that I wanted to tell you about. We talked about how Shawn Johnson revealed her status as formerly addicted to Adderall. And she said that she won't take any narcotic painkillers, even for a C-section. So she'll take like Advil and Tylenol, but none of the heavy-duty stuff. And I wanted to clarify specifically that in a previous, she didn't say who prescribed the Adderall to her. But in a previous interview, she said, and I quote about the Adderall addiction, she said, the U.S. team national doctor, and then she said, and we don't have to get into all that, and then went on to talk about taking the Adderall. So that's all but confirming it is he who should not be named former doctor who is in jail for life and prison. And I feel like it's just I just want to say like how important this is that she came out and talked about this, because there are many gymnasts who have died from addiction, and more than we know about, because I think, families are very reluctant to say there was, this person has been addicted from a back injury or a leg injury or whatever for, 15, 20 years and then accidentally overdosed or whatever. But it all started with a gymnastics injury or whatever it started with. In Shawn's case, it was, someone saying, oh, this, a doctor saying, oh, this will help you manage your weight, and it's just, and we've heard about that from other coaches telling gymnasts to do that as well. So I just feel like we're really lucky that such a prominent athlete like Shawn Johnson would come out and speak out about this suffering and how hard it is. And I just really want to commend her for that, because it's not easy to do.
Club Gym Nerd, you get discounts and first dibs on live show tickets, an extra whole podcast every week, athlete dossiers for major competitions, code guides, options to commission your own segments. It also makes a great gift. Check it out at gymcastic.com at the Join the Club tab.
Shall we begin talking about the fact that Oklahoma has a new threat?
New threat.
Yes.
We shall see. What Jessica refers is that Oklahoma won the weekend again, competing at the almost in Salt Lake City Sprouts Quadathon, scoring a 197.9. But Cal in the second set, or the evening session after Oklahoma competed in the afternoon, scored just a quarter tenth behind Oklahoma with a 197.875. They both dominated their respective sessions. So Cal now has the second highest score of the season so far. Top 4 ranking right now is Oklahoma, Cal, Alabama, then Arkansas, just like you predicted. And I'm sure just like it will stay for the whole rest of the season, because this is the fun of the first couple weeks.
I'm sure it's going to stay exactly like this. I want to talk about the most important thing that happened in the rankings this week, and that is the Clemson Tiger leotard, which if you're a visual listener,
and it's so relevant, and so thank you for bringing this up. Yeah,
this is where it goes in the outline. Spencer, how dare you?
Yeah.
Also, this leotard is the most cat leotard since the Hope Spivey leotard. It is orange with purple stripes, practically a tail on the back, a white cat chest. it's so fantastic. It makes such a statement. And not only, we can look at the Hope Spivey leotard. We have a whole episode all on leotards
On
too.
Hope Spivey's leotard? No, but leotards.
Basically. But yeah, it is also a, which we'll link to in the show notes because we always link to those. But it is this also made a statement in so well because they had 8,000 plus people at their first home opener, and that's sold out for some programs. I mean, 8,000 to 10,000 is incredible numbers, and the fact that they got this on their very, very, very first meet ever is huge. So shout out to Clemson, and they're in like the top 20, aren't they? Yeah,
debuted at 19,
which is amazing. Super stoked for them. So now that we've talked about leotards, Spencer, you can talk about whether or not numbers matter.
Numbers, yeah.
And this is my favorite part because numbers don't matter in this case.
I mean, fair. That's a fair comment for right now. And then we'll get to March, and I will be the victor.
You will.
The tables will turn, and I will be on top. Okay, so if you are new to following college gymnastics, watching it, the question is whether like anything of the scores matters right now. Like, does it matter whether you're getting a 197.9 or a 195.9? Does it matter whether you are winning meets or losing meets now or ever? So basically, just to clarify from a macro view of what's happening, it doesn't matter. Nothing matters right now. The scores you're getting, the meets you're winning or losing are kind of nothing, because you only end up using 6 scores for your final ranking at the end of the season. Everything else is dropped. And your final ranking determines postseason seeding and who you're matched up with in the elimination meets. But teams will compete 11, 12, 13 times before rankings are finalized, and only 6 of those meets even count. So you drop half your scores. So if you're a disaster for the entirety of January and you fall in every single routine, it doesn't have to matter, because you can just drop all those scores. It's kind of like, if we were to compare it to Elite, the first couple meets of the college season are like the score you get at US Classic during an Olympic year, where it feels super significant at the time because we haven't seen you in a while and the Olympic process is starting in But then once you've done the 2 days of nationals and the 2 days of trials, like, no one remembers what happened at Classic, especially in an Olympic year. Like, does anyone remember that Suni fell on beam on her wolf turn immediately at US Classic before Tokyo?
Yeah, no one remembers that. That didn't happen, Spencer. I completely forgot about that. Yeah. So I was muting myself so I wouldn't kill everyone with my coughing.
Thank you.
Which is minimal. Week 4 of this nonsense. Yeah, good times. Yeah, so losses are just pride. They just matter for like, yay, hoorah, hoorah. What the hell? I've been watching too much Preacher. Yippity doo dah is what I meant.
The only times we see win-loss records are like on the team's school athletic department website. They'll have like the win-loss record because they're used to like their footballs and things where that is factored in. But like, no, that's nothing. It doesn't matter at all. But this, like, things not mattering at all goes for both the good scores and the bad scores, because things are going to change a lot. Like, it's a coping mechanism if you have bad scores. It's like, well, it's January, we're going to drop all this. But it's also true for the really good scores. Like, things are going to change a lot. So it's more about a qualitative assessment at this point. Like, is the lineup's potential there, rather than are they actually staying on the apparatus at this point? Because you can get there.
Is it super exciting for me to create a storyline that I'm positive Cal, this is the year. Cal is going to place in the top 3, if not win this year. That is the important thing.
Okay, so tell me, so you're saying scores, yeah, they're second, but this is real. This is real and representative. So would you like to explain why? Because what about Cal is making you think they are now, as of today, the top challenger to Oklahoma?
So the thing about Cal is, like, I feel like they've been a contender, but they just, I don't know, they just seem to be like the overlooked team. But they've done all the same things that KJ has done everywhere that KJ has gone, the Oklahoma head coach. Like, when she went to Iowa, all of a sudden Iowa was state. You guys, Cyclones, not Hawkeyes.
Yeah.
all of a sudden that team was like, whoo, almost like what has happened now with their new head coach at Iowa State. Ashley Miles, she's making a statement with the details of the gymnastics, and it's exactly what Cal has done. And this is the thing about college gymnastics that separates it from elite gymnastics. It has to be perfect. Everything you do has to be perfect. And so the whole team is like that. I mean, they are just absolute perfection. They're precision gymnasts, and they have been. And I just feel like they're finally getting those scores that are showing that with where they are in relationship to Oklahoma. I would put them at number 1. I would tie them with Oklahoma probably right now.
Of course you would. Of course.
I mean, all those steps up vault, Oklahoma, obviously. But yeah.
So you're saying,
while we discuss them, let's look at Maya Luzon's perfect vault, and then you can, judge for yourselves.
So you're saying you don't expect things to, like, in a few weeks return to the typical hierarchy where Cal is like ranked 7th and other people, you're like, they're staying in this at least top 4.
Yes, I think so.
I am interested to see, because I still think they need a little bit more on vault and floor. We're seeing the progression of those 10-0 starts and the vault difficulty. We saw freshman Kyan Mayhew come in to the vault lineup with a Yurchenko 1.5 and stick for 995. That's the kind of progression they're looking for. But they still, like, you look at the potential. They set a program beam record this week with 3 Yurchenko fulls in the lineup still. So
a beam record, a vault record?
Vault record? Beam record? Whose record?
Vault.
They set a parallel bars record, is what I want to say.
They could probably do those Yurchenko full mounts on beam if anyone was allowed to run sideways anymore. But
they had 3 Yurchenko fulls on beam and set a program record on vault. Set a program vault record with 3 Yurchenko fulls. So there's certainly, on the one hand, room. You see the room to improve that, to grow, but also, are you going to ultimately challenge Oklahoma at nationals if you have 2-3 Yurchenko fulls in the lineup compared to an Oklahoma lineup that's like, oh, you can stick a Yurchenko 1.5 75% of the time out of the lineup because we have too many options. So that's my question of whether this is gonna stay. But execution wise, I think it feels satisfying because it represents, like, teams are currently ranked by toe point, basically, which is our dream. Like, the NCAA rankings could just as well be like, who has the most toe point? Who has the leaps? And you're like, yeah.
If you have a bunch of 10-0 value vaults like Oklahoma does, but you do not stick them, you might as well do a perfect 995, which Cal can do over and over and over. So,
and one would hope that your stuck Yurchenko full would outscore your Yurchenko 1.5 with a step, because it's only 0.5 lower. Doesn't always happen that way. But the thing about Oklahoma is they're not going to be stepping on these vaults.
They're not. They're going to stick them all perfectly in a row. They're not even trying right now. But also, I would like to see, one of their gymnasts has an always straddle, like a big straddle and close your legs twist. And that never gets deducted the way it should. So I would hope that the scoring seems to be a little tighter right now. And by tighter, I mean the judges are judging closer to the level 10 code, which is what they're actually supposed to use, even though they don't and are instructed not to in their trainings. I would like to see those deductions taken.
Do you feel like the judging has been tighter so far this season?
Yes and no. At this Utah Invitational, I felt like it was.
I felt like it was for the afternoon session that was on ABC. And then it went like, wee! Yeah, scores. So average scores for, like, top 25, top 36 through 2 weeks are higher this season than they were last season. So do you feel like that's quality of gymnastics? But we have fewer 10s. We have 6 so far compared to 8 at this point last season. So,
I mean,
we have a lot of information to go on.
I'm still not happy with the scores. I mean, there should be so many more 9.7s and lower.
Yeah.
So I'm not happy with it. It's still not the way that they're supposed to be judging based on the level 10 dev code, but it is what it is. But I do want to talk about an artistry moment to be celebrated, which is Rikna. Some people say her name, but it's actually Rishna, the great Czechoslovakian, a country that used to exist, gymnast, author of the Rishna release, the Stalter Tkachev on bars. She also was the silver medalist at the Olomouc, which was the friendship games, the real 1984 Olympics, where the Soviets competed, and she was silver all around. So, like, she's one of the greatest gymnasts ever of all time to live. And her daughter, whose last name is Jessen, goes to Stanford.
Mhm.
We talked about her before. She surprised her mom and did her mom's elite floor. You guys, how I love these moments. We had this with Jessica
Hutchinson last year. Yeah.
Doing her mom's.
Sylvia Mitova, her mom.
And then we also had this at, was it Lindenwood? Where?
Bridgeport.
Bridgeport.
Sasha Sakanovich.
Yes. Did her mom's routine. So I love this tradition. Oh, I love it so much. So now we need all the daughters of whose moms were college gymnasts 20 years ago to do their mom's routine.
What about, can you do someone's routine if they're just psychologically you feel like they're your mom?
Yes.
So
and you can make that a storyline and talk about it. And the Gymternet will love that. Mm-hmm. So are you saying you want to do Amy Chow's routine? And
I mean,
Funky Chicken?
No, but
whose routine?
Amy Chow. I don't want to. This isn't for me. I don't want to do any of these routines. Can you imagine? No.
But do you have someone in mind?
Gymnast wanted to do someone's routine.
Yeah, they
can. The Romanian ants in your pants floor routine. The classics.
Oh my God. The greatest pandering, genius, and also beautiful routine to do was if someone just declared Kathy Johnson their mother and did one of her routines.
Yeah.
Who?
I would like...
Brooklyn Morse could do it.
Yeah. I would like someone to do like Yang Yun's 2000 Olympic all-around floor, or not all, like her Olympic floor in 2000 with the foot.
Yes.
I want that to happen.
Oh my God, you guys, who should we get? Should we ask, should Morgie Boo do Kathy Johnson's, one of her routines for her senior year? Or is it her junior? I can't remember how many years anyone has competed or what their actual gymnastics eligibility was between COVID and injuries.
We're over years because you can have 6 if you want. So
yeah. So anywho, legacy routines. Who's going to do Kathy Johnson's routine? And start pushing it now, you guys. It's got to be someone that Kathy Johnson actually covers too, so she can lose her mind over it. This is the best idea ever. Okay. Also, I wanted to give an altitude update because I've talked about.
You do enjoy doing that, yeah.
How important it is. And, in my list of things you should ask a school when you're going on your visit just to see if they're paying attention, it's things like, can all of your athletes swim by the time they graduate? So
that's on your list?
Yeah.
Okay.
Because one of the issues in the United States, because we are a country with such a history of racism, is there are many Black families who never learned to swim. And there's a whole effort made by USA Swimming in conjunction with one of their great Black Olympians, who's probably a medalist, but I don't remember who it is because swimming, and you can win so many medals in swimming. But, people are probably going to get mad at me for not remembering his name. But anyway, he started a whole initiative with them because it's still like a legacy problem of racism and Jim Crow laws. So you'll find that certain schools, they go to do their pool training, which a lot of programs do, and they'll have athletes who don't know how to swim. So it's and there are schools where it is a requirement in order to address wrongs of the past that everyone has to be able to swim when they graduate. It's just like one of those life-saving skills that you should have, like Bryn Mawr College. One of the women's, Cullen Jones. Thank you, fact checker. Yes, that's him. So anyway, it's one of those things that, if it never occurred to them, then it's a sign and you can take it however you want and it might not matter to you, but it's one of those things. So as of August, this is my MLK update, everybody. MLK Day. As of August 2022, all NCAA teams required of level, so Division 1 through 3, doesn't matter, are required to screen for sickle cell trait, or you have to bring your results. So sometimes their newborns get screened for this. And also it doesn't matter your race. Everyone has to do it, which is also very important because obviously, you never know. So I love that this is now a thing because, as you know, famously, their sickle cell is very, very dangerous. And there's an NFL player who I talk about often who didn't know he had sickle cell trait, went to Denver and competed in the footballs and ended up losing 3 organs. 2 organs or 3? I think he lost his spleen, gallbladder, and something else because of the sickle cell trait because he didn't know it. And so I always think of this when we see athletes get sick when they compete at altitude. So we had Sarah, who is a doctor and treats athletes and gymnasts, write in about this. And she said that regardless of heritage, they have to test. And then many schools or conferences have additional testing that they require, such as vitamin D, ferritin levels to assess vitamin D or iron deficiency, particularly in female athletes. Hallelujah. Speaking as someone who's always anemic and had a transfusion last year, other schools and teams may assess bone density, which can be used for good or for ill. On the positive side, it can be help identify people at risk of stress fractures and possible disordered eating. On the other hand, some teams use it as a more aggressive form of weight checks, e.g. ranking athletes in terms of their body fat percentage. That usage is often directed by the coach rather than the sports medicine team. Yeah, and a lot of schools also have rules that like coaches cannot talk to athletes about weight ever. Like it's forbidden. And in the other great MLK Day news, I want to mention that the FDA has approved the first gene therapy to treat sickle cell. So things are going well, you guys. Things are improving. I don't have to be worried every single time people compete at altitude that they're going to die from not being screened for this. So,
is this a promise that you're not going to worry about that?
No, I still might.
Okay.
Yeah. But yeah, anyway, you guys, happy update. I love good news. Okay, I'm ready now. We can move on to something else.
Okay, we have program debuts to talk about in college gymnastics because we have 3 new programs this year. They all competed in their first meets over this past weekend. So as you mentioned, Clemson, 8,000 people. We will see. The interesting thing I want to see is like, what's the second meet attendance? Because it's one thing to be like, we have a new program and it's a shiny new thing, but then you have to keep it going for meet after meet. So I'm very interested to see what the entire year average is, and if they can keep this up, they'll be one of the most attended teams in college gymnastics already, which is impressive for a first year team compared to the old timer generation of coaches and how they would talk about how long they had to spend like giving out free tickets. And
yes.
Dee Dee talked about like being in front of the grocery store again, this when she was doing commentary last week, handing out free tickets, which I'm like,
hustled.
More current college coaches should do that. Like, don't rest on it.
Every men's coach should be doing that. All of them, constantly be in front of the grocery store. Yeah.
Just live there. Live in front of the grocery store. So yes, Clemson ranked 19th, started with a 196. We also had Talladega, which debuted with a 187.75 in their first meet, which is very comparable with Fisk's start last year and well ahead of the recent new D3 teams and where they started in terms of scores. So I think it's a good foundation, a good progress point shown. And I think particularly the comparison with Fisk is useful because it shows that the depth and interest is there to support more and many and multiple HBCU gymnastics programs. Like you didn't see a dip in the interest level. So if, for instance, you were trying to make an argument like, okay, we have 2, what do I hear 3? Do I hear 4? Do I hear 5? You can point to, look, the depth is there, the interest is there, it's supporting more, we're able to support more and more programs at the same level of quality of competition.
Yes. Naysayers.
And we also
shush it. Oh, we had Fisk news before we talk about the other teams. So Fisk was having their meet today. That was all of the Black female head coaches, and they had to cancel it because of the weather. So there's a giant storm. I don't know if you've heard in the states that have snow, there's things going on. So that is really a bummer. But all the teams got there, at least the coaches did, and they did have they had a roundtable discussion. And if there was a way to watch it live, so see if it's archived, and there's a way that you guys can watch it. All the head coaches had a chat together in a beautiful room, by the way. I will put a link into the show notes so you guys can watch that.
We also had Utica, the new D3 team, start with a 176.725, which again compares pretty well for a new D3 program that was actually higher than Hamlin, which is a D3 program that's been around for many years, scored in their first meet. So if I'm Utica, I'm like, hey, we're brand new and we're already like not that far behind teams that have been around for a while. So again, if you're viewing this as a foundation, I think you're pretty excited about like, yeah, we're like, if you look at the rankings, we're last, but like we're brand new as a D3 team. So of course we are. We're 2 points behind other teams, 3 points, mostly because of bars, because it's very difficult to have. I think that's the hardest apparatus for new small D3 programs to be able to have 10-0 starts and competitive routines on. But you're looking at that and you're saying, yeah, we're not way off already. We're not way off the pace after one meet.
There's very, very important news in the there's no such thing as being too tall for gymnastics, which is very close to my heart. As someone who's only 5'6", what the hell? Me and Horkina, same height.
I'm the one who should be talking about
You should be, yes. So we always mention when there are gymnasts that, because there's so many that are taller than 4 feet tall or 4'10", and we even have 6'1" gymnasts competing. So Michaela Tucker, Michigan State, 5'10". So what is your favorite fact about her?
Do I have a favorite fact about her?
Yeah, that she's debunking something.
Oh, well, that's not a fact, but I did say to Jessica, I was like, this is what she's doing is debunking the narrative that like, oh, tall gymnasts, you can be tall, but that means you're good at bars because you have lines, which lines have nothing to do with your height. That's not what that is. You like straight lines can be both short and long. That has nothing to do with, it doesn't have to be longer. It doesn't make it straighter because I'm very tall and I'm not very straight. But Michaela Tucker competed 3 events, not bars, has a Yurchenko 1.5 on vault, great on floor, lots of difficulty. She also had one of my favorite moments of that quad meet. If you saw her floor routine, with her layout step out in combination, which was one of those moments where you're watching a tumbling pass and you're like, she's going to go miles out of bounds. You can see it coming like, all the way. You're like, there's no way, there's no way, there's no way. Like when you were watching Michaela Maroney's double back and you're like, no, she's going too far. She's going too far. She's going too far. And she'd be like, no, this was a fantastic, like she was just like, this back foot's going out. No, it's not in my layout step out. I'm just going to do it like I'm gainering it. And that it's not out of bounds if the foot doesn't touch the ground. That's can hover out of bounds. You can seem like you're going out of bounds. I'm just gonna swoop, bring that back in. Don't anyone tell me I'm too tall. You can bring that foot back in.
I do want to mention Alexander Shadilov. If you've not been listening to me talk about him for 11 years, or if
you're asleep in a cave,
right? Israeli gymnast, bronze on floor, 2011, 6 feet tall. So you're welcome. And watch his floor. It's awesome and super difficult. And yes. Okay. Florida finally competed. My God, we finally got Morgan Hurd on floor.
We did.
We've been waiting so long. And we also had a opportunity for comedy where I got the details because I couldn't see this. That Victoria Wynn was just walking like gymnasts do, caught her foot on a mat and face planted and laid there for a second. Because Morgan Hurd said on the socials that she thought she was going to have to revive her, but then she got up and was perfectly fine. But this is just a gymnast trait. If you don't see a gymnast just face plant and lay there for a while, it's not real. They're not a real gymnast. So that's the lesson we can take away from this.
At least, I mean, this like beat expectations because at least she tripped on something. Because usually when gymnasts trip, it's just on the air.
Yes, ghost trip. Yeah,
it's ghosts. Yeah, it's mostly ghosts.
I remember like sometime in middle school, I did this exhibition where we just tumbled in the grass for some like after school program or something. And like I, did a back tuck and fell and, just rolled out of it. And all the kids laughed. And I was like, this is just, you don't know how many times we fall. We constantly fall over. Like this is what we do. So anywho.
Yeah.
Oh yeah. And then most recently on the big stage, of course, Simone when her chasse attacked at World Championships, and
Right.
she still won.
Yeah. That was your opportunity to be like, at least I know how to fall because I'm a gymnast and we learn how to fall. You idiots would probably hurt something because you don't know how to fall.
Yeah. Rolled over, stood up, fine. I'm going to do it again right now.
Yeah. Okay, so here's the thing. Florida started their season. Fine. 197.1 was their score. Lowest team score for them in 2 years. Is that anything?
No, they're just starting.
Mm-hmm.
They've got a lot of
as
people
we talked about earlier,
graduated,
like score.
People out.
I think in terms of the score, yes. But I would say they don't have Trinity. They don't have Kayla DiCello. Don't have Riley McCusker. And I think you saw their absences in the lineups. You felt that. Kind of watching Florida, it's like I kept expecting there to be more of the lineup. I was like, oh, wait, that's like, isn't Trinity going to go and get a 10 now and increase this lineup? Like, you felt like it's not what we're used to seeing from Florida. So that will be worth watching because I think we saw a lot of freshmen compete, a lot of very good routines, not necessarily like that's a new Kayla DiCello, that's a new Trinity moment, which is totally an unfair expectation because we had, Skylar Dracer came out, a couple of very strong routines. Anya Pilgrim, I thought, had a really good first meet for Florida, over 39.5 in the all-around hits, looked comfortable, looked solid, ready to go, good execution. So it's kind of not fair to be like, but are you Trinity? Like, that's an unrealistic expectation. But also then, like, if Florida's going to win a national championship, like, someone's going to have to be Trinity. They are going to have to find that routine or those who are the 10s now.
Which Leanne Wong didn't do floor again, which it's fine. Leanne Wong competed the whole elite season, is a world champion yet again with Team USA at this last World Championships. Obviously, save all of her lower limbs for when they're needed, obviously. But just for my fantasy team, yeah.
One thing you can't say is that Leanne doesn't compete enough because she competes 1,000 times a year.
Yes.
In every level. You wouldn't be surprised if suddenly Leanne showed up with like a level 10 meet and was like, also, I'm going to do this one.
Before we talk about Morgan, I want to give you guys some GymCastic updates. What's happening around here? So we're going to camp again, national team camp, going to the February camp. So there will be a live podcast from camp, and it'll be after we get to watch practice. So make sure you're a Club Gym Nerd member because these are the folks who send us to these. This is how we can afford to travel. So we always do bonus extra parts of the episode for them. And you do that at gymcastic.com. If you got a gift subscription for the holidays or any time, make sure to email customer service at gymcastic.com so you can make sure you can put all of our extra bonus content, behind the scenes, college and cocktails, all of that stuff, extended interviews in your favorite podcast player. Live show season pass is available now. You get 4 live shows for the price of 3. Your virtual tickets. You can find that on the website. I want to announce this now. This is very important. We are going to have a costume contest at our live show at NCAAs. And why am I announcing this 4 months in advance? Because I want you guys, this is costume contest. Come up on stage, get your full cosplay sewing needles out. Because specifically, my expectation is I want to see some Suzannes and Alabamas out there. I want to see some full 80s gowns.
You would like to see a Sarah and Suzanne couples costume?
Yes. This is my dream. You can dress as whoever you want. You can come as a gymnast. There's going to be people that, some guys who put on leotards and they're like, yes, it's my dream to have always been able to wear a leotard on stage. Here I am. We always have some more like gymnastics related contests for you guys, but the costume contest is happening at the live show. So get ready. Go search for 80s prom dresses now that you can wear to this and be one of the great coaches from back in the day. GymCastic Fantasy League. We have our very first winner. We have weekly prizes for the Fantasy League. It's just college right now, but in the future, we're going to add Elite too. And our winner is Fact checker will tell me right now, but your prize, make sure it's icons only. I again am like in, I don't know, 500th place or something because Leanne didn't floor. It's not Leanne's fault, okay? We have newsletters for you under the About navigation. College and Cocktails, your entire menu for mocktails and cocktails is up now in the forum. And as always, anything we talk about in the show, we have links up in the show notes. And remember to subscribe and hit the automatic download button because apparently the Apple podcast stopped doing this. So like if you use, this is why I don't use the Apple podcast player. I can't stand it. But make sure you hit your automatic download so that you have it whenever you need it. Now, let's talk about world champion Morgan Hurd and her floor debut at Florida.
It was not her floor debut. We've seen her do floor before. But she recorded... So
she competed, like this season.
Oh, this season.
This season, her floor debut.
Everyone had for Florida. This was their first meet. Everyone for Florida had their season debut. Okay, but anyway. Morgan competed beam and floor. Career highs on both, 9.8 on beam, 9.875 on floor. What did you think of her performance? Career highs? Where are we with Morgan?
I love that Morgan is always keeping her style of, it's a classic style, but very still like zombie worm murder, like her first big elite routine, because she does it so well. Like angry classical. So I love that she has not succumbed to the booty shake college routine, which I love. Don't get me wrong, but like her style is her style and she owns it and she does it so beautifully. So I very much enjoy it. And she has some of her signature moves in there, like her, on her elbows, cartwheelie back bend thing. So yeah.
Always a crowd pleaser.
Yeah.
I felt like the first half of that beam routine was the potential of what she can be as a college gymnast, which we've always known. But like her first two sequences were so crisp and right on. I was like, here we go. These got a little wobblier. After that, there was a leaning through a dance combination and it being like, you didn't see that. You didn't see those balance checks. But those first couple of sequences, it was that level of crisp execution and confident landings that when she's really on beam is what I think I associate with her the most, even more than her floor. So that was like, if this is really something that we are, like if this is where she's able to stay healthy, she's able to do routines, able to compete, if we could see that first half translate through to the entire routine, it's very exciting. And when we talk about who's the new Trinity routine, Morgan's one of those people who has the form to do it. If she's healthy and able to do routines, she can get 10s. She doesn't have built-in deductions or shouldn't if she's doing everything. So we will see where it goes from here. But I think this is definitely the strongest we've seen Morgan to start a season in her college career.
Yeah, for sure. We have important leotard news besides the Clemson Tiger leotard.
Okay.
And that is
it about Stanford?
It is.
Are you going to talk about Stanford?
Love Stanford. Stanford has debuted yet another Stanford leotard, which is Stanford's motto is basically, we're too hipster Silicon Valley to care about gymnastics things, but we're also amazing. So we poke fun at gymnastics. And so they have debuted the Fear the Tree. It literally says Fear the Tree on their leotard. And the front is a tree that looks like a Christmas tree with boxing gloves or red hands that are ready to...
Unconfirmed.
We can't really tell. It might be open hands ready to choke you with their cool, like, unbothered by gymnastics-ness. So I just love Stanford. Their whole vibe is just... What did you... you also called GW this. The hipster... It's...
Yeah, I mean, there was a time when George Washington was like the cool hipster team to be into.
Yes.
Because, they were having great form and they weren't one of the popular teams. They hadn't gone commercial. They hadn't sold out yet.
Right. And Stanford's always that. This is totally their vibe.
Famously, Silicon Valley is definitely not about selling out. There's no selling out at all, ever.
Never. No. Oh,
Are
my
there
God.
other teams you want to see do a comedy leotard?
And
And what would it be?
Ooh, a comedy leotard. I would like to see Southern Utah has such a great opportunity with calling themselves the Flippin' Birds. But the whole thing is you could have had a bird upside down with a questionable finger, leaf, what is it called? Feathers?
A leaf. Birds have leaves. Uh-huh.
I was on the tree. With a questionable feather positioning. That would have been so great. But
I think the only good, like, gymnastics specific one, because a lot of schools will be like, Georgia will be the Bulldogs, and the gymnastics team is the Gym Dogs. And it's like, that is
boring.
Flippin' Birds, that works.
Flippin' Birds was great. Lean into it. We didn't mean flipping off all the teams. We're better than you. Rivalries.
Of course not.
We mean, yeah. The Cyclones, the Iowa States, they could, because all the animals are kind of blah. You want, right?
Uh-huh.
They're just, except the Clemson leotard. I can never get enough of that. But
animals have been done. That's why, like, new women's sports leagues always go for concepts.
Yes, because
emotions.
Unless you're going to be like mermaids or unicorns, like be like all the UK countries and don't pick a real thing. Like Isle of Man, feet. Feet are real, but not.
Feet are real. Mark it down. We've reached. Jessica thinks birds have leaves extending from them that they used to fly, and feet are real.
No, but I meant like feet on a wheel. You know, like the feet that you walk with. You know, you see the Isle of Man.
Do you think we will just confuse people if I call this episode "Feet Aren't Real"? Maybe that's the comedy. That's the comedy leotard we're looking for. Like if a team knows they have really bad foot positions and they have flexed feet on all their skills, they own it, and they're just like, feet aren't real.
Man. Can you please show this fact checker and put it on the screen so people know what I'm talking about? Yeah, it's like, but you know what? It is the UK, and they did horrible things to people. So I wouldn't be surprised if the Isle of Man flag is based on some torture device that they created to like take people's feet off and stick them on pegs and use them as a water wheel. Anyway, no offense to Isle of Man. I'm sure, Joe Locke from Heartstoppers there. So I'm sure it's like a great and amazing place. But anyway, I'm talking about
found a way to talk about Heartstoppers.
Oh, see, it's not on their legs put together. That's not a real thing. See, I know what I'm talking about, you guys. It's like a bunch of legs made into one entity that's just legs that are in a circle.
Yeah. I'm still on "Feet Aren't Real."
Scotland, Scotland, unicorns, whales, dragons. Some teams should be the three-headed Fluffy from Harry Potter, the three-headed dog, guard dog. That's way better than the dogs. We're the Fluffies. Anyway, leaning in should be the Oregon Beavers, obviously. They should lean in even harder than they already do. So what should their leotard be?
That's the question. This week, because Stanford's team also, with their tree, their like team hashtag is "Own It." So then when they got a 46 on bars and then tweeted about it, it was hashtag "Own It," which I think was unintentional, but I also loved, like, we're going to own. We got the 7 on bars, hashtag "Own It."
People like, how do you get a 7 on bars? I'm just like, let me tell you. How you get a 7 on bars?
I'm super familiar. I would have bit your arm off for a 7 on bars.
I did manage to get 8s on bars. Thank you very much. But one time after I got my cast off and I did no freaking rehab whatsoever and just went back to gymnastics and thought I could compete a bar routine, and I could not hold on to the bar. Funny thing when you can't move your hand for 6 weeks. So anyway, I fell off like 3 times or 4 times. I repeated a skill like 5 times because I just couldn't. Anyway, so that's how you get a 3 or a 7 on bars. It's hard. That's how.
It's when there are 5 people in the lineup, so you have to keep doing your skill, because otherwise you can't be like, oh, I've fallen so many times, I'm just going to salute, like you can maybe if there are 6 people in the lineup.
All scores could count even if there are 6 people, and also you need your start value. So there you go. That's
Jessica's
how you do
referring to in the postseason elimination meets. If there's a tie, you go to the 6th score counting. So it can be and has been very important.
Most recently last year.
Mm-hmm.
So
Speaking of which, let's talk about Michigan.
Yes.
Great news for Michigan this week. Sierra Brooks set the all-time Michigan record in the all-around at 39.85. And it's always particularly surprising to me when a Michigan or someone from a school like that sets an all-around record because they've been so good for so long. It's like MJ Frazier set the Cal all-around record this week with a 39.775, where I'm kind of like, well, of course she did. Like, these are the best gymnasts Cal's ever had at their program. But it's like, when you can beat Elise Ray's record,
yes.
That's you've reached quite an echelon. So the previous record was 39.825, which was shared by Natalie Wojcik, Elise Ray, Sarah Kane, and Beth Weimer. Sierra Brooks now solely in charge of the Michigan all-around record with a 39.85. She got a 10 on floor, 2 more 9.975s. Michigan was like, remember that time in the first meet where we got a 195? We don't either, because we just got a 197.725. That was fake, and this is real. We'll see, but that's what Michigan will say.
I was shocked that this was the highest, because I was like, they have to have scored this high before. I mean, it's only a quarter tenth, the most important tenths in college gymnastics. We'll get to that in a minute. But I am so stoked for her because, this is obviously it's Michigan. She's a national champion.
And I think
that's what she deserves.
This is what Michigan needed to show this because, 195 in the first meet, whatever. But they don't have Natalie Wojcik. They don't have Abby Heiskell this season. Similarly to Florida, we're talking about not having Trinity Thomas, not having Kayla DiCello. There is the room for a potential, you expect a dip. And so an early season showing that this is the kind of score we were getting last season at this point is useful. What are you laughing about?
I guess I'm thinking about things that aren't real, anyway, you guys keep it together.
This is my insecurity because I see Jessica slightly giggling over there, and I'm like, obviously she's making fun of me. No. Obviously I've done something wrong.
I'm not. Speaking of making fun of you, I'm practicing for the Paris Olympics I'm trying to ask for things without smiling so that the French don't interpret me being friendly and smiling as making fun of them, which is why I feel like people misinterpret rudeness coming from the French, but it's you don't just smile because it seems like you're laughing at people. So anyway, I'm going to be working on this so that, but it's not my nature. I'm very hi, let's be best friends. Tell me everything about you. So anyway, Spencer, I just want to let you know that I'm going to be working on my resting bitch face. In the future,
you will be angrily asking for things. Got it.
Yes. May I have a croissant? But not smiling when I say it.
It's going to be a real challenge.
Oh God, this is going to be rough. Anywho, you guys, speaking of things that are tangentially French, LSU had a 10.
Nice transition.
Thank you.
I liked it.
All right.
Konnor McClain, 10 on bars for LSU this week. She worked out the church this week, mostly. She caught it pretty close last week. This week it was close with a little bent elbows, an elite deduction. But stuck her dismount this week. Really exciting to see. I'm still why wasn't she in the beam lineup this time? Just because she fell last week, even though her routine's great. But we'll focus on the improvement on bars and how she got a 10 this week. So we're now at 6 10s this season. As I mentioned, Sierra Brooks got one. Maya Hooten on floor for Minnesota, who, by the way, is moving on up the rankings for active 10s in NCAA. Right. So she is getting up there. She is closing in on Haley Bryant and Jade Carey because she gets 10s on floor so often. Because that landing control goes a long way. There's not. That's the thing about Maya Hooten's floor. It's when she lands a pass under control.
Spencer just lost. I thought it looked like an earplug, but his ear headbud AirPod just fell out of his ear. So we'll be back in a moment after he resumes. Okay, Spencer has fixed himself. And now we're back.
Hard to say. That's a stretch, but
also we know Konnor McClain's 10 was not a 10. There was separation, but you guys, welcome to NCAA Gymnastics. We're just very happy for Konnor.
Yeah. Did you feel like any of the 10s this week were 10-10-10s? Well, look, actually, I'm going to hold off on that question because we haven't even gotten to correct or correct yet.
Right.
So put a pin in that. I will be returning to that question in a second after we talk about the balance beam situation, the actual concept of a balance beam situation, because again this week we kind of had the podium meet beamsies, where we had a lot of people at these big podium meets not so much staying on the beam, or at least experiencing a slight local breeze localized entirely within a side aerial, if we're being most charitable.
Every team in the Utah, LSU, Oklahoma, UCLA, Utah Invitational meet at altitude had a fall on beam. And we heard from our listeners, one who was sitting straight on, so you're looking at, where you stay in the KJ position, so you look straight down the beam to see if anyone's off, said that the beam was literally crooked. So I think by crooked, they mean not sideways crooked, but tilted crooked is what I would imagine. But anyway, they confirmed there was a problem with the beam. So,
well, did anyone have their level?
That's the thing.
If you are a coach and you aren't bringing your level,
you literally have a level on your phone. Everybody, every coach should be leveling the beam. And if there isn't, you stop the whole meet and you make them fix the beam. And these are the things that happen. Yeah, I mean, Armine checks it in like 7 different ways.
When was the last time we had a podium meet and there wasn't some sort of equipment problem?
My favorite is still when it was smoking underneath the bars at NCAAs. What a day that was.
Do we know how? Why?
Some wires. But there was also water. Then we had the water dripping on bars. Was that the same year? Maybe the water was dripping on the cables. Then
those might be related.
Yeah, then there was the year they had to fix it. And there was like all of a sudden everybody disappeared underneath the blankets and went underneath the podium. But yeah, coaches, be more anal. This is what I'm asking.
Yeah, that's really what we need from famously gymnastics coaches.
They're super easygoing, and it's not like a life or death sport or anything, so it's fine.
So chill.
Corrupt or correct? Yes. Where we decide all the problems with judging.
Okay, so the question put to me this week is, Spencer, you mentioned in the live blog that you didn't understand why MJ's beam could get 10 and then Lazan got 9925 after her. Thoughts on rewatching?
So,
no,
I will explain.
Because I still don't really get it, and I would like Jessica to explain it to me.
I still do not understand this at all. Okay, so MJ from Cal, it looked to me like her aerial front step, or her front aerial immediate layout step out, which is it's so hard to do with that kind of form, you guys. The power you have to have, oh my god. It almost looked like she had like a millisecond boop to the side, which was one of the things I was talking about in College and Cocktails. But she saved it and stuck her dismount perfectly. So I was like, if it was me, I would take a 1/4 tenth on that. But you can't take a 1/4 tenth, which is the whole problem with NCAA gymnastics. So I was like, I would not have given that a 10 for that little tiny bounce thing that was so smidgy. But
that is additional movement.
It's a deduction
balance, which is it should be an 05.
Right. It should be an 05 because you can't take a 1/4 tenth. So,
and if you were, accurately taking like full tenths for other errors that other people would have, like not hitting split positions
at all,
which was not an issue in MJ Frazier's routines.
No.
If you were taking a full tenth, 2 tenths for those, then a 1/2 tenth for a little boop makes sense.
Yes. Which I love that you've started to say a little boop too. I
know. Oh my god, I do it all the time now, and it's your fault, and it's horrible.
You know where I got that from? My Nana. So thanks, Nana. The thing though that I can see in a way is like the kind of the judge calculus is, oh my god, she did a front aerial immediate layout step in and it was high and perfect and great form, and her chest was up when she landed her layout, and she does her leap sequence, which is some kind of leap, and then a ring jump, which is legit ringed so hard. It's so good, and it's so much more. It has more virtuosity than other people's gymnastics, more dynamism than I'm not going to take this little thing because the rest for gymnastics is so much better. But then you have Maya Luzon, also from Cal, who got she got a 10 on vault, right? Or a perfect 995?
9975 on vault.
On vault. It was so good.
So 10 from one judge.
But her beam, I was like, there's no deductions in this. Did she get punished for MJ getting a 10? I don't understand because like, let alone like looking at other dismounts, like for example, Haley Bryant from LSU, who's perfection. But her dismount is a Rudy. So she punches, bends at the hips a little bit. She has a little bit of hip bend, sticks it perfectly, a little lower chest. But Maya Luzon, the whole routine's perfect. Absolutely no deductions. And then she does her dismount, and it's so much higher than everybody else. So much airtime. Perfect landing. She lands totally upright. There's no chest forward. And it was just beautiful. Like, this is why I feel like Cal and the details, they're doing things to the umpteenth degree. And I don't understand why she didn't.
Why her score was lower than MJ's, which was my question. Basically, I made this the correct because I was like, Jessica, explain this to me. Because my initial reaction was, I didn't have MJ at a 10, but then Maya Luzon, when I was like, oh, well, if MJ is a 10, then Maya Luzon's a 10. But then it was 9925. So I was like, did I miss something? And the only thing I saw on replay is there is a moment in Maya Luzon's routine where you can tell she choreographically did not do what she intended to do. And I didn't see this in the first time. I only saw this on replay. The only reason you know it is because of her facial expression. Like, I think if she had maintained a fake smile, you wouldn't have known that stepping backward wasn't what she meant to do there. But I think maybe she got like balance check on choreography because she like betrayed it, that she didn't do what she meant to do. It reads as, but then it reads as a balance check. But what I'm saying is, like, if you're Maya Luzon, like, what can I do to improve my score next week? It's like, maybe be better at lying. I feel like that's the lesson we want to take from college gymnastics. Like, be better at
lying. Yes. But yeah, I don't know, but maybe that was it. Or maybe you could see whatever it was that, or maybe they took like an adjustment with her feet being adjustment deduction.
Yeah, she does have
adjustment deduction.
Like, steps back, and well, they have many deductions.
I mean, right. Do they use them ever?
She kind of steps back and maybe meant to step forward, so it's like an adjustment kind of thing. So that was a possibility that I maybe saw on the second viewing. The other thing I did want to ask you about, because you mentioned Haley Bryant, is Cal doing beam, same panel of judges at this meet, the Utah meet on podium. Cal's at night on the second day. LSU started out on beam first rotation of the day session. And we talked about in College and Cocktails how we kind of really liked, what an idiotic thing I just said. Strike it. Don't worry about it. That we liked the beam judging because they were using their 9-7s, which we don't always see.
Using all the numbers.
Then if I compare the Haley Bryant routine that got 9-9, I'm like, what are we taking here? You think it was the hips on Rudy dismount?
I think it was the hips, possibly the hips on a Rudy dismount. But but the other thing is, like, I think that possibly she did not hit her full straddle position when she does her straddle quarter. That's the only thing I could see that maybe was not complete. But otherwise, when I was watching it live, I was like, oh, she's totally going to get a 10. Like, that's going to happen. But 9-9, so she must not have.
But so if we go back to the topic of the segment, corrupt or correct, where are you on this? Is this beam scoring corrupt, or is it is it more on the spectrum side of corrupt or more on the spectrum side of correct?
It's more on the spectrum side of correct, but it's still not using the actual rules.
I think that's a fair
gymnastics in a nutshell. I just explained it. There you go. Oh, okay. What did you think of the broadcast? Because this was on Big Girl ABC. This was,
which I like. You have started calling it that.
Yes, I love that you described it that way. So that's what we're going to call it. Also, I love that when I went to watch it, it was the main preview. Like, it took up the whole screen. It was gymnastics about to happen. There was no other. It wasn't like our Thursday night previews of sitcoms with laugh tracks. Oh, I hate laugh tracks so much. Do you know there's a category on Netflix where you can look for comedies without laugh tracks? Anyway,
I don't know what you're talking about right now.
I went on the app, the ABC app, and it was the main feature.
Okay.
It took up the whole screen.
Okay.
It was like gymnastics. Click here for gymnastics, which is my dream. I want that to be the main feature of every app. So, what did you think?
I'm thinking about other apps that could add that as a feature, and that's funny to me. Yes, I enjoyed the new format of broadcasting quad meets that has been introduced this year. So basically, the idea is for the national championships, they're slightly changing the way they're planning to broadcast it by being 2 events at a time. The way it's described is that vault and beam are going to start, and then once those are done, then bars and floor go. That's not how these meets have kind of been going. I think we had vault and bars start right away, but the idea is 2 events at a time. The estimate is that adds about 10 minutes to the meet, but means that you can see everything / almost everything. So everyone seems to be, at least prospectively in favor of this as a proposition. Like, you can add 10 minutes. And I think, these sessions still fit into a 2-hour window. So I don't think the timing felt long, but you're going to be able to see more routines without it being as long as if they were going one at a time. And I think we're seeing that work. And I think it's a good system of how to do a 4-team meet where you can follow along and see things more than you would if you were going one at a time or like trying to follow everything in a quad box that's going on simultaneously.
Yeah, I like how they're doing it. I felt like I got to see way more gymnastics. I didn't feel like I missed things. I do wish they would change the aspect ratio so that when they go to a split screen, you're zooming in closer on the gymnastics. That's the one thing that they're not doing well right now. So if you're a visual listener, you can see we just gave a demonstration of this. So when you change it, you can see more of Spencer's room and his full couch and his Hyrule poster in the background. But when we go,
by the way, before we started this episode, Jessica was like, "Do you want to clean stuff off of your couch? Because it was full of crap."
I don't know what it literally was. Nothing. I didn't know. I never know what's there. I don't want people to zoom in, and it's like your underpants.
This was not a criticism. This was not a criticism of your behavior. She was just like, you have like some sweatshirts and cables and things like I do on the couch. Maybe you don't want everyone to see them. And I was like, thank you.
I'm looking out for you. Yeah. And then we changed the aspect ratio when we split the screen. And so now we are zoomed in closer and you can look closer at Spencer's face, which is one of our listeners, visual listeners, some of their favorite hobbies. I do wish that they did a ticker almost like, they could just use the Verdia scoring system and that would be great. How did you think it was following the scores? Because they did have the box up in the corner that gave you the running totals, not event totals.
It is the one struggle I think you have, maybe they're always going to have, which is I still feel like you also need the live scores open while watching a college gymnastics meet, which maybe is just me, because obviously I need to see what all of the scores are the millisecond they come up. Like if a score comes up and I haven't seen it for 10 seconds, it's like, well, the meet is canceled. This is not usable. This is not watchable. So that could just be me, but I kind of feel like maybe instead of changing the aspect ratio, because there was like a lot of dead space on the screen, you could get the like 6 gymnast view of what the in progress view of that team's rotation and how they're going, so you can see what everyone's gotten, what they need to drop, where the team score is, so you have a little bit more information. But yeah, I think that's the struggle is, even with all of this, you still also need a second screen, which I get, for the kids these days with their second screens, that's what you want or whatever, or so I'm told. But, I still want that.
The only thing the thing that I appreciated is that Bart said everyone's score every single time. So as long as you had the sound on, Spencer, you could hear what the latest score was.
Sometimes have the sound on.
So almost never. I
did have it on enough to hear Bart say "thank you for walking" instead of "thank you for watching" at the end of the broadcast. I caught that. So there were reasons to have the sound on, because you get things like that.
I felt seen when Bart makes a mistake. I'm like, it happens to all of us, Bart. Don't worry. The thing is that they could do. There's no reason not to have everything on the screen, and we saw that with the Verdius doing the Mean Girls meet, and you can do this with any of the Verdius meets. They have everyone that's competing, who's up on deck, who's currently competing, score updates, and the thing is, you can sell ads for that too. So this is another way that they can, if they're like, well, we don't want to spend this money on graphics, then just be like, well, you sell it to an advertiser. It's on Big Girl ABC. That shouldn't be too hard. You could get, whoever. I always love it when it's a one company.
NBC to watch this and be like, oh, we could have one screen that shows Simone because we're obsessed with it, and another screen that shows what's the routine that Simone's actually watching. Because that's the worst part of the NBC broadcast is when they're showing Simone, but Simone's excited about her teammates' routine that's going. So they have like a close-up of Simone and she's like, come on, Amari, good one. Yay, beautiful, great. And you're like, well, now I want to see what Simone's into.
Yes.
I don't want to see her. I know what she looks like. I'm familiar.
That is a great idea. We should add this to the report that we sent them that one of our listeners did earlier this year. With the full analysis, we can add that to the suggestions. The only thing I didn't like about the box that had all the scores up is I kept being like, that's the wrong score. Why do they have that score up? And I didn't realize it was the cumulative scores, because my brain works by, are they close to a 49 on 49 whatever on that event? Mm-hmm. Not they have an 85. I'm like, what does an 85 mean? What is that? I don't know what they need on this event. So that was the only thing that didn't work for me in my gymnastics math brain.
Yeah.
Because
basically what I want is so much information on the screen that anyone else would be like, this is unwatchable garbage. And I would be like, this is perfect. Thank you very much.
I mean, they do it in all the other sports. Like, they just need to use apply the graphic designers that they have and the data that they have. They spend their money on the sports balls and just put it up. Just do it. Invest. Sell that ad. Some advertiser that wants to get in on the college gymnastics, we're available, first of all. And then secondly, you can pay for these graphics. Okay. Do we have event updates? Where are the rankings? Even though they don't mean anything right now, they do mean things for your fantasy team.
Ooh, they sure do. Yeah. So Maya Lazan has moved into first place in the all-around with her 39.75. So it's Maya Lazan, then Haley Bryant in second, Reina Worley in third, and then at fourth is a tie between Faith Torres and Luisa Blanco. MJ Frazier, as I mentioned, set a Cal record with 39.775. Sierra Brooks, her 39.85 for Michigan is the highest all-around score for anyone this year. So we will see if anyone beats it. We've seen, 39 nines lately-ish, so it's doable, but that's a pretty high mark to start with. In Bet You Didn't Predict That news, Sid Morris of Long Island, I'm so excited about this, tied for first on beam with a 9.975 and a pike jump that is correct.
Oh, real pike jump. Oh my God, I love a real pike jump. Oh, they're so rare. Bless Sid Morris.
And Jordan Coleman of Westchester is ranked 8th on bars with a 9.925. That's a school bars record for Division II Westchester, a gymnast in the top 10 on an event. Awesome. It's very cool.
So we're updating our power ranking this week. We did our preseason one. Yes.
Let me write down that assignment.
I know. I already put it down on my to-do list for tomorrow. Obviously not today. My God. I have to edit all this and take out when your headphones fell out of your ear. And I laughed so hard. I had to be.
That was gold.
No, I'm leaving that in, actually. Okay. Next week, what are you excited about?
Okay. So what we have going on right now is Kentucky currently sits ahead of LSU in the rankings. Kentucky's 6th. LSU is 8th. Kentucky goes to visit LSU. Is Kentucky the favorite? Numerically, would tell us Kentucky is the favorite. I think you default to LSU because it's LSU at home and it's LSU. But I don't think that one's a given. I think it's going to be very interesting. I'm looking forward to seeing how that goes. Because as we talked about, wins and losses don't actually matter. But if you decide to make them matter, they can be fun. The teams certainly care, especially the SEC teams.
Oh my God, it's such a big deal. They all rivalries and all the stuff.
Yeah. So Doesn't matter, but does it matter? No. But does it? Still no. Arkansas and Alabama both scored 197 ones this past weekend, and now Arkansas is going to Alabama. We will see. Again, I think it's a similar dynamic where you kind of default to Alabama, more established program, typically ranked higher, but quality of performances, quality of scores we've seen lately from both, or we've seen one meet from Arkansas, two from Alabama, very similar. So also keeping an eye on that one.
I do want to clarify, but that by next weekend, we mean this weekend, which means January 19th, which you should start with by watching our selected college and cocktails meet and then joining us afterwards. I want to give a little fantasy gymnastics update, but before we get to that, some Gymternet news and some elite news. Some people just like to give us no strings attached money. They don't want to bother with joining Club Gym Nerd, and so they just donate. You can find our donate button for a no strings attached donation at the bottom of the club page at gymcastic.com/club. So first of all, in Gymternet news, did you know Marta Pehan-Kalasia, MPK?
Yes, sure.
Poland. Yes. Famously of the Pink Panther routine with matching Pink Panther leotard. I had a matching Pink Panther mini leotard made for her by Sylvia P., who did such an amazing job. I love their Leos. And they now have a documentary, which this leotard features prominently. It's called Marta and Jagna, and it's about their relationship. Both the parents are gymnasts. Both parents are coaches. They own a gym, run a gym in Poland. And so she's just grown up in the gym, and it looks so amazing. And you guys can watch it with English subtitles. It's on Vimeo, and Prime Video also has it. So you can watch this documentary, which I'm so excited to watch. I haven't watched the whole thing yet, but you can check that out. Agnes Coletti, oldest Olympic champion ever. She's beat all those archers, whatever archers are called. Archers.
Arch eaters?
I always feel like archery always has the oldest competitors. There's someone's like 90 and they're 7.
Equestrian. You're thinking of equestrian?
I thought that was like an 80 or 90 year old.
Because the horse is doing the work. Don't write me letters, equestrian people. I don't actually care.
Yeah, no. But Agnes Coletti, 103. Still going strong, you guys. Super stoked. I know that we've talked about Lindenwood being cut. This is their final season. So they do have a program up to save themselves, raise the money that they need. And I love that Missouri supported them this week and is trying to save their fellow SEC team. And
not an SEC team, but it's the same state.
Is that? Oh, yeah, that's right. They're not in. Oh, because they're not the same division, so they're not in SEC. That seems rude. Doesn't it?
No.
Okay. Well, what are you going to do? Does the name Gabby Rooker ring a bell to you at all? Do you remember her?
Yes.
She was at
Yes, you said lying.
UW lacrosse.
Okay.
And she was a gymnast there. And after gymnastics, she took up running. I don't know why any gymnast would ever do this to themselves. But she just made the marathon Olympic trials. She's like very good at the marathoning. And so that's freaking amazing. I mean, yeah, because gymnasts are like really strong. They're good at all the sports. So I feel bad for her that she has to run, but apparently she enjoys it. So what are you going to do?
By choice, apparently.
And then did you see, okay, you know Risa Sponda, whose floor routine I love. Yeah. She's our junior elite floor champion, I think. And she, if you're a visual listener, we're going to watch this. She put a video up of herself doing a triple back at camp. Triple back. She's doing it into the pit. You know, it's not quite there yet, but triple back in a really
Can you imagine?
Marta would be so mad. You remember she famously never let anybody do no double flipping vaults, no triple back dismount. She was so mad at Shantessa Palma's coaches for allowing her to do a triple back dismount. But yeah. Oh my God, it would be so cool. Oh, it'd be so cool. I mean, it looks, as long as it's safe and she lands very, very upright,
Mm-hmm.
I don't have a problem with it.
We'll see.
Yeah. If the only way that you're falling is you're always over rotating, not under rotating, I'm okay with it. I mean, it's been competed for 40 years now. It's not like people don't know how to teach this. You know what I mean?
Mm-hmm.
We have a fantasy gymnastics update for you. So, fantasy league on GymCastic or wherever you like to play, but we have a fantasy league going now. I am Trisha Wu's Mohawk, the best name ever, and Spencer is
Little Rosa Gallieva.
Little Rosie, and it says Spencer behind it. And it's just,
So that you know, it's me and not Rosa Gallieva. In case you thought Rosa Gallieva was playing in this fantasy league, as far as we know, she is not.
There may be some other famous folks on there, but not her.
That's why I said as far as we know.
As far as we know. Okay, so this week's steals. So people that you can get.
Yeah. So we talked about Cal freshman Kyan Mayhew. Debuted her Yurchenko 1.5, stuck it, and scored a 9.95 for that. So keep that in mind. She also did do floor, fell, so she is going to have a low ranking. But give it time. That could be one to, get in before the getting's good, because she's just competed once and fell. Emma Andres at UCLA, never been in the actual beam lineup before. So started with a 9.9. UCLA is kind of searching for who are the last couple beamers that you can trust to put in there. And I think she made a great case for herself. So that's a steal. Ohio State's freshman Courtney McCann got a 9.975 on beam, which I didn't necessarily see coming. They also have Ella Hodges, who ranked 51st on floor last year, but she's currently tied for first this year because she has 2 consecutive 9.95s. So that's someone else to keep an eye on. Missouri freshman Hannah Horton. She has a Yurchenko 1.5 on vault, 2 straight 9.9s on floor. We also have Claire Dean of Stanford. Stanford, kind of under the radar, had a great second half of the meet this weekend. They just got a super low score on bars, but she opened the season with a career high of 9.925 on beam, currently sits in the top 10. So in our fantasy league, you want to find some routines that you can get for the 3,000 level, the 2,000 level. So those are some steals, some routines you can get in at that level that aren't the super expensive ones that will sap your salary cap.
Right, which is the hardest thing. Also, I want to mention some other steals that you can get. Ball State, you have Ball State in there, right? Victoria Henry?
Maybe.
9.975. I know we have Ball State. Is it Suki Pfister? Yeah, we have Suki Pfister. So yeah, Victoria Henry, Yurchenko 1.5, stuck like crazy for a with 9.975. So that's another one. Also, little baby Nastia, who her name is actually Lily.
Yeah.
With the last name Smith. Lily baby Nastia.
Lily with the last name Smith. That's what she goes by. That sounds like a song from a musical. From the
which she, we talked about her beam, all that stuff, but she got a 9.925 on floor this week. So add her. Also, Adeline Kenlin is not, she's not cheap. She's the top beam worker, but 9.95. But just watch her beam. Kenlin. So you can, oh my God, just love her so much. Yeah.
I also have an advisory this week.
Oh.
Wong at your own risk, because Jessica got bit by putting Leanne Wong in her floor lineup. She didn't compete floor this week. She's been going nonstop. I kind of think that occasionally resting her on events here and there throughout the season is going to make a lot of sense for Florida and for her. Especially if she's planning to go right into the Olympic elite trials process right after this season. So be aware that in a 5-up 5 count format that we have in our fantasy league, that's potentially a devastating zero, which I know a lot about. Yeah, I know a lot about devastating zeros. So far,
it's happened to be 2 weeks in a row because I don't want to let go of her on floor. It's Leanne Wong.
Okay. It was your own fault in the first week because Florida didn't even have a meet, though.
I know, but I was like, I forget that I could set my lineup every week, so it was okay to let go of her, but I don't want to, but because it's Leanne Wong, but also I could just put her back later, but then Leanne Wong. Okay, we have some injury and retirement news that we need to, okay. Number one, so make sure these people aren't in your lineup, and also we're bummed. But I have to say, Iowa's 5th year, Jerquavia Henderson, we've talked about for years. We love her. She announced that she's stepping away from school and gymnastics and wrote this really lovely statement about how much she appreciates the program and the school and the resources they've offered to her to help her make this decision, and how it just, was a little too much for her this year. So she was 12th on floor last year. So also, Danae Fletcher from Oklahoma was on crutches at this meet. Sarah Julius from UCLA is a great bar worker, has had an ACL tear before, and she injured her knee in warm-ups at the Utah meet. Nebraska's Lucy Stanhope, transfer from Utah. She was injured on vault at the same.
Yeah, did you
Utah
see? That was like
yeah, no, I didn't see it. And then Michigan's Farah Lipitz. She's expected to make bars and beam lineups this season eventually. She has a fractured foot, so 6 to 8 weeks.
Yeah, we saw her on bars and beam in the Michigan's public exhibition against the other Michigan schools, and seemed like someone they could get into the lineups this year. So
yeah,
in case you had that marked down from earlier, be aware.
Yeah. And finally, we have a very important letter.
Okay.
I love
Sarah.
This is from Sarah. I love this letter so much. It explains everything that I love about this podcast, this community. Boyfriend gym nerd convert.
Okay. Sarah says, I've been a listener and Club Gym Nerd member since the 2021 Tokyo Olympics. I look forward to both episodes every week. You somehow hit all of my favorite things: gymnastics, Harry Potter, spreadsheets, and feelings. My partner has a group of friends from high school that he's still really close with. When I first met one of their wives, I was thrilled to learn she's a card-carrying Club Gym Nerd member. I can't believe I made a real-life gym nerd friend. Hi, Eve. We were so excited when you announced the Fantasy League because we finally had a way to get our partners invested in NCAA. They're both really into their sports ball fantasy worlds, so we figured they would enjoy Fantasy Gym too. Boy, were we right. Last night, my partner told me he had a surprise for me and told me to check my email. He made a freaking spreadsheet so we could calculate season averages and come up with stats to help build our lineups. Literally so amazing, I almost teared up. I think we have a new gym nerd. Our little group got together last weekend for our own College and Cocktails brunch edition and already have plans to watch the meet on ABC this weekend. This refers to this past weekend's meet. Jessica, I'm sure you'll be glad to know that my partner immediately added Suki Pfister and Lolly Decanoidze to his lineup because best names ever and also amazing athletes. He also told me he picked Miley O'Keefe for Beam because he recognized her name from last year. Turns out he was paying attention after all. Thanks for helping me to gym nerd out every week.
You guys, this has made all my dreams come true. Convert everyone in your life to a gym nerd. This is really the whole secret purpose of this show. Oh, I'm so pleased. This made my week. Remember, Friday, January 19th, this Friday, 7:30 p.m., we are joining together as a family with our mocktails and cocktails that are all in the forum, and you can download the whole menu so you can get ready for it after the triple header of Florida, Auburn, Arkansas, Alabama, Kentucky, LSU. Did I get everyone in there? That's a lot of teams.
You did.
After that, after those meets, we are 7:30 Pacific.
And just FYI, this week's cocktail of the week is called Judge Juice. I can't wait.
Oh, the best. All right. Remember to set your podcast players to subscribe and automatically download. And thank you so much for joining us. Thank you for being with us every week. Thank you especially to our Club Gym Nerd members. And remember to take off on gay, split on rights, and register to vote. We'll see you on Friday. Thanks for listening.